Stand by. Oh, what's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Make your next thing a big one. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, FBI search of Trump's home focused on suspicion of withheld documents. The FBI's search at former President Donald Trump's Florida home, during which agents opened Trump's safe, appeared to be focused on classified White House materials Trump should have returned. The Washington Post reported Tuesday. Investigators reportedly suspect that Trump or his aides kept key records when they handed over 15 boxes of items to the National Archives sent 7 months ago. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters that President Biden was not briefed in advance about plans for the unprecedented search of a former president's home. Quote, "We learned about this. The president learned about this, just like you all did, through the public reports," end quote, Jean-Pierre said. This is according to the Washington Post and CBS News. Number 2, explosions reported at Russian air base in Crimea. Authorities in Crimea, a Ukrainian peninsula annexed by Russia, reported a series of large explosions Tuesday near a Russian military air base. At least one person was killed. Numerous others were injured, and about 30 residents near the airfield were evacuated. The Russian Defense Ministry said detonated aviation ammunitions caused the blasts. Ukraine publicly denied responsibility, but an unidentified senior Ukrainian military official told the New York Times that Ukrainian loyalists carried out the strike. The rare explosions deep inside Russian-controlled territory came as Ukraine pushes a counteroffensive to liberate parts of southern Ukraine that Russia has seized. The damage in Crimea, which Ukraine wants to win back after 8 years in Russian hands, boosted morale in Kiev. This is according to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Number 3, Biden signs bill to boost U.S. semiconductor chip production. President Biden on Tuesday signed the CHIPS and Science Act, which seeks to boost semiconductor chip manufacturing with more than $200 billion investment over 5 years. The legislation aims to lower the cost of goods and make the U.S. less dependent on foreign chip makers, helping avert the type of supply chain disruptions triggered by the coronavirus pandemic. Biden called the measure a, quote, once-in-a-generation investment in America itself, end quote. The White House said earlier this week that companies have committed nearly $50 billion in new investments in American semiconductor production in response to Congress's recent approval of the bill. This is according to CNN. Number 4, Biden signs off on proposal to admit Finland Sweden to NATO. President Biden on Tuesday gave final U.S. approval to the proposal to admit Finland and Sweden to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Both Nordic countries have long remained neutral, but they quickly asked to become part of NATO after Russia's invasion of Ukraine made them wonder if they would be next to face Moscow's aggression. Biden said if all NATO nations sign on as required, adding Finland and Sweden will strengthen the Western Defense Alliance. Quote, "It was and is a watershed moment, I believe, in the alliance and for the greater security stability not only of Europe and the United States, but of the world," end quote, Biden said at the signing event, attended by the ambassadors of Sweden and Finland. This is according to The Hill. Number 5, appeals court rules IRS must give Congress Trump tax returns. A federal appellate court panel ruled Tuesday that the Internal Revenue Service must give former President Donald Trump's federal income tax returns and those of his businesses to the House Ways and Means Committee. The 3-0 decision by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit marked the latest in a series of court losses for Trump as he tries to shield his financial documents from investigators. Trump says the inquiries are politically motivated. The powerful House committee says it needs Trump's returns for an investigation into IRS audits of presidential income tax returns. And the appellate panel said the lawmakers have the authority and a, quote, legitimate legislative purpose, end quote, to demand the records, which date from 2015 through 2020. This is according to CNBC. Number 6, suspect arrested in murders of New Mexico Muslim men. New Mexico police have arrested Mohammed Syed, 51, and charged him with murders of 2 of the 4 Muslim men killed in Albuquerque, 3 of whom were killed in the last 2 weeks. Investigators tracked down a Volkswagen Jetta, allegedly driven by the suspect in the latest killing. Quote, "The driver was detained and he is our primary suspect for the murders," end quote, Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina announced on Twitter. The victim in the most recent shooting, 25-year-old Naeem Hussein, was found dead from a gunshot wound on Friday. Muhammad Afzal Hussein, 27, was found fatally shot on August 1st, within a week of the murder of Aftab Hussein, 41. Both men were from Pakistan. The first victim, Afghan immigrant Muhammad Ahmadi, was killed last November. This is according to the Albuquerque Journal and CBS News. Number 7, Trump-backed candidate wins Wisconsin primary. Omar survives challenge. Tim Michels, who was endorsed by former President Donald Trump, won Tuesday's Republican primary to challenge Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers in November. Michels, might be Michelle's, Michels. I'm going to say Michels, beat former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Klevich, Kleefisch. Why can't KeysDAN read? Back to it. An establishment-backed candidate endorsed by former Vice President Mike Pence. The vote marked the latest in a series of wins for Trump primary picks, demonstrating the former president's influence with the GOP base as he backs candidates embracing his 2020 election denial. 4 states held primaries Tuesday. In Minnesota, Republican Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, a member of the Progressive Squad, narrowly beat a primary challenge from the centrist former Minneapolis City Council member Don Samuels. Her victory in November is a near certainty in the overwhelmingly Democratic Minneapolis area district. This is according to the Associated Press and the New York Times. Number 8, GOP Representative Scott Perry says FBI seized his cell phone. Representative Scott Perry, Republican Pennsylvania, an ally of former President Donald Trump and chair of the ultra-conservative Freedom Caucus, said Tuesday that 3 FBI agents seized his cell phone. Perry did not say what the FBI was seeking with its search warrant, which agents would have had to provide to take the phone. Perry is one of at least 11 congressional Republicans involved in discussions with Trump's White House about overturning the election. According to former Justice Department officials, the House January 6 committee and an October 2021 Senate Judiciary Committee report. Perry said the FBI, quote, made no attempt to contact my lawyer, who would have made arrangements for them to have my phone if that was their wish, end quote. This is according to Politico. Number 9, Mississippi grand jury declines to charge Emmett Till accuser. A Mississippi grand jury has declined to indict Carolyn Bryant Donham, 87, on charges of kidnapping and manslaughter in connection with the 1955 killing of Emmett Till. County District Attorney W. Dwayne Richardson announced Tuesday. Till, a black teenager, was murdered after Donham accused him of making lewd remarks and grabbing her at her family's store. The grand jury heard from witnesses, but decided there wasn't enough evidence to bring charges. Donham said she didn't know what her then-husband and brother-in-law planned to do to Till, who was 14, after they brought him to her for identification. Till's disfigured body was found days later in a river. The murder and calls for justice fueled the civil rights movement. This is according to USA Today. Number 10, Serena Williams announces looming retirement from tennis. Tennis legend Serena Williams said in a Vogue article that published Tuesday that she plans to retire from the sport sometime after the U.S. Open, which starts later this month. Quote, I hate that I have to be at this crossroads, end quote. Williams, almost 41, told Vogue's Rob Haskell, quote, I'm torn. I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I'm ready for what's next, end quote. Williams, who is also hugely successful with her fashion and entertainment business, said she doesn't like the word, quote, retirement, end quote, and prefers to consider herself to be, quote, evolving away from tennis toward other things that are important to me, end quote, like giving her daughter Olympia a sister. Williams has won 23 Grand Slam titles and more than $100 million in prize money. This is according to Vogue and the New York Times. That's 10 things you need to know today for Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. I like having conversations with folks. Everybody's got a story. I'd like to hear your story. All right, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Smarter. Thank you so much for sticking around. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.